You are listening to 600 Saga. Today's feature is Augmented Revolution by Liam Burke. Adult conceptions of galvanizing content jiggled and doo-wopped around streaming vocabulary in the air around her. Images birthed heartlessly by education administrators who'd stopped caring for longer than her lifespan. Illusions showed past glories of empires gone, unknown verbiage punctuated with representation to their real placeholders. Occasionally, faces sloped and dragged themselves around the classroom. All the wear and interp in the world couldn't transform a bleak, exhausted worldview into a vivacious learning experience for distracted teens. Hormonal inhibitors be damned. The truth of all technology was that the old barely fashioned it before it was snatched up and owned by the youth's exuberance. No one who saw Custer's Last Stand would give it a standing ovation. Not like this. The children knew it. The teachers knew it. Yet the farce continued, boredom pouring into their bases in breathtakingly formatted input. The school's overlay was abuzz with the inane. Nat fixated on the hypocrisy, a fascinating pattern of ages-old cycles. No matter the overlay saturation, the concentration of code, the lessons learned from the centuries of context, the systems always remained the same. A never-ending slide into entropy, blasted human husks left in its wake. Was it any wonder she rebelled? Upended anthills, exposing the maggots within? Fought back. Idealistic intentions sloughed off in soupy strands as she bathed in the school overlay day after day. The aerosphere offered no escape, save the little mods her and her classmates uploaded base to base. The chatware was a lifesaver. Grand plans of sweeping reform gave way gradually to more visceral, attainable goals. Pain and the infliction of it. She'd sought out back channels. Timid texts blasted into the aerosphere. Finally, a reply had wriggled through the overlay alongside the latest dreadful syllabus. I see you. A crasher. With highly moddable wear. Custom. Unknown to current security protocols. Cue the montage. Internal earbuds blaring, cardiac calibrators beating her ribcage like it owed money, the skeleton of her plan acquired. She plied her generation's gifts and slapped on meaty diversions, painted it in coding camouflage. It would be silent. It would be terrible. It would shake those decaying phys suits out of their dusty pods and into a sliver of what they inflicted daily. Self-deployment of the crasherware resulted in disaster. She couldn't be the source. It would kill her, or at least bring her damn near close. She had to spread it out. A bored glance in class while a teen-sized plus sign explained how fun math was gave her what she needed. The class assigned standard issue stress alleviation PET. Genius. That was 3 days ago. She pinged the teacher. A signal sent silently base to base. A text box popped up in cheerful neon covering her desk's lower left. Ms. Bird. Yes? Nat. I have to pee, can I? Ms. Bird. ... Can you? Nat. Content blocked via profanity filters. Success. She was promptly issued a reassignment to the principal's office. Floating name above her head suddenly turned red. Fine, she shouted as she stood and stormed out of the room. She aggressively treaded through the lesson plans come to life. Ms. Bird didn't even look up from her teaching wear. Nat smiled inwardly and went straight for the bathroom. Her name blinked crimson until she activated the override hack she'd whipped up. Her name went black to white, and all was well with school security. In the safety of a stall, she brought up the activation interface for her crasher. Little red blips shined across a translucent schematic representing hamsters, gerbils, and other class pets augmented for longevity. Now, augmented for her purpose. Doubt creeped in as she lifted her finger, hovering over the execute button that wasn't really there. A healthy dose of hormone inhibitor took care of that, and away she went. The moment stretched out of all recognition. Her base was blocked, immune to the crasherware, shielded from the oncoming insanity. What was the point of infliction if one was swept along in the tide? The side effect was not knowing if she'd been successful. The air and the aerosphere trembled as the sounds of input overload began to echo and bounce, both in reality and augmented reality. The school overlay groaned along with the multitude as thousands of data sets slammed into every face within 500 feet. Worming out from the restroom, escaping her cocoon to be born anew, Nat peered into the hallway. Classrooms roiled and bounced from within. Teachers and students scrambling to match their bases, their senses set upon them, relentlessly, looping, infinitely, mercilessly. Bodies poured out into the hallways, their cries lost in the inner cacophony, heard only by Nat. Ms. Bird sprinted from something special Nat had whipped up just for her, reminding Nat to release the final piece of her symphony. Recorded sets of output broadcasted out, smothering the bedlam here. As far as the outside authorities knew, all was well on the Western Front. It had to stay that way as long as possible. With a sigh of release, her inhibitors switched off, one by one. Adrenaline flooded her body, which weighed less and less as each second sliced past her and into the minds of the wailing crowd around her. She skipped among them, touching here and dialed up input set there, knocking over any and all who'd been dense enough to bother her. A lone fin passing through stormy waves in an ocean of useless, thundering data. Good job. A familiar text box inserted itself in her immediate overlay. Welcome to the revolution. A blink, and it was gone. A blink, and it was untraceable. Nat shrugged and shoved someone. Revolt was her idea. Someone wanted to emulate it? She couldn't really blame them. Local news began to match statewide networks as similar stories unfolded. Data, lifeblood of society, turned on its benefactors. Eventually, its flow was stoppered, returned to factory settings. But the damage was done. The knowledge existed. Someone was starting an augmented revolution. This was Augmented Revolution by Liam Burke. Liam Burke is a horror sci-fi independent author. He is a father of one and a husband of another. He currently works in the IT industry, studies Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu, and enjoys several types of role-playing games. He has several novellas, which are collections of short stories. He has released a fairy tale with illustrations, all available through Amazon. Check our show notes for links. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.